I'm ridiculously comfortable with talking about myself. My things. Not talking about myself, but saying things about myself.
Oh, okay.
There's very few things that I'm not comfortable saying out loud about myself.
Oh, beautiful.
Exactly.
Okay. So hi, and welcome to another episode of Contemplations, the podcast. I am your host, Kinah, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today's episode is very exciting. I had a very lovely, very long, very chaotic, in a good way, chaotic chat with one of my really good friends and buddies. She's pretty much like my sister, Glory, and we had a chat about our boundaries and our vulnerability and how we navigate people accessing our space and how we build intimacy with our friends and family and loved ones by how much we let them in and how much we keep them out. I hope you have a great time listening to this podcast. I really had a fun time creating and recording it. And like I said, this is a very long podcast, and I'm probably going to split it into 2 or 3 episodes. But I think it's going to be fun, and I think you're going to learn some stuff from it. Maybe a little too much about my personal life, but that's fine. I'm just really excited for you to listen to it, and I'll let you get started. Before I begin, though, I have to mention, if you haven't already, please subscribe or follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and let me know what you think about the episodes. I really do appreciate the feedback. Alrighty, I'll let you get into it. Talk to you later. Ciao. This conversation that you're hearing just now, I asked the fellow that I am interviewing
to introduce herself. Yeah.
And she responded by saying there's very little. How did you say it?
There's like few things I'm not comfortable saying about myself if I'm asked.
Beautiful. Yeah. And just so that you can contextualize that, today we're talking about boundaries.
Right.
And I was going to precede this conversation by giving y'all like a definition of boundaries, but it got very complex, so I decided we're gonna just jump into talking about our experiences with boundaries and our ideas of what that looks like, rather than give you a definition based on a psychologist or a mathematician or a neuroscientist, because each
it's
of those
very
people
different depending on the field.
Yeah.
And the English definition is also not very useful in like an emotional sense.
Exactly. Yes. Because the dude that I was reading about he did physics and neuroscience. Mm. And I was trying to capture his definition of boundaries, and I was just like, no.
Yeah, that's hard.
It got really hard. Anyway, we're going to begin, and I'll ask you to share a little bit about yourself for context, for our conversation, and then I will begin. We'll just begin chatting, I guess.
Okay, share a little bit about myself. Still, I wish you would specify what you want to share.
Okay, I can help. Okay. What is your name?
Okay. Well, even this is an interesting question. My name is Glory. That's actually my first name. Glory. But most of my friends call me Orolua. Yeah. Because that's my Yoruba name. Yeah. And that's the name my parents call me the most. Yeah. Yeah. So...
Yeah, so context again for this is the first Nigerian I am interviewing.
I'm your first?
Yeah. Way to make it weird.
Well, it was right there for the taking. I couldn't leave it there.
It was just that I did set myself up for that one. Okay, this is the first Nigerian that I'm interviewing, and context, we'll probably be giving you guys context here and there, because some things will just probably go into like little rabbit holes, and we'll have to be like, let's explain this, because I know that not everyone who listens is Nigerian.
That's very true.
But I don't know, this is probably true for a lot of other cultures, but other people in America, people don't have a lot of names, but in Nigeria, we do have a lot of names. Mm-hmm. So Glory has at least 2 other names that I'm aware of.
Yes.
There could be more depending on who's referring. Right. We don't have to go into all that.
No, we would not.
Because of boundaries.
No, but okay. Because of time. Time is a boundary. Actually, time is a boundary.
Do you see the smart people that I know? Also, if you were listening last week, so low-key, I'm going on tangents now, but this topic of time, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm going to exhaustively talk about it, because who am I? What is time? Like, no. But no, it keeps coming up in different topics, right? Yeah. Time is just a huge constraint,
it's a very
right?
important constraint.
Yeah, and a huge topic. So anyway, so your name is Glory.
Yes.
What do you do?
Oh, I'm a PhD student at the Institute of Resource, Environment and Sustainability.
Yes.
Where I study climate change and health, mostly health vulnerabilities, health adaptation to climate change. Yeah, I kind of live at the intersection of population health. I thought you were going to say I live and work in this.
No,
you see that, no. My work lives in the intersection of environmental science and population health. So that's kind of my space.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's pretty cool. Yes. I wish I studied something that cool. Anywho's, moving on. I feel like there's... okay, so this is another question I think might help frame before we kind of go into the conversation. If I asked you to, in one word, which is always a tough question when people start with in one word, it's tough. But if you could pick one word that's not necessarily exhaustive, but something that you think gives a really good picture about what your personality is, what would you say?
Oh, my entire personality.
That's why I prefaced it. just it doesn't have to be exhaustive. I mean, it can't be.
Okay, the word I would choose is thoughtful.
Okay. Hashtag contemplation.
I didn't plan that.
Just plugging it.
I didn't plan that. It just happened.
I just always have to reiterate.
Yes.
If y'all are hearing all of what I'm giving to you, the people that I happen to just know. Anyway, let's proceed.
I did not plan it at all.
I've been bragging for the last, every episode, I'm always bragging, I know cool people. I just do.
I don't think of myself as cool, but okay.
Well, I do. Okay. And this is my podcast. So, whatever.
Sounds good.
Ignore that from this cool person trying to reduce my street cred.
Okay.
Is it street cred if you know smart people?
I think it is.
Oh, okay, cool.
Street cred, yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing that. That is definitely very helpful. I really wanted to mess with you and ask you some deeply personal questions since you're
That's fine. Let's do that.
But you see, the thing
What's the deeply personal question?
The thing is, for boundaries, me, I have boundaries to ask.
Very good.
So
we'll get into this actually, because this is very useful.
Yeah, because for me, I feel like some people might be okay. I'm already jumping the gun, but some people, I find this happens in a lot of conversations I have where I don't know, because some people might be okay with one thing I'm about to ask them, but in my mind, I can't ask them because I'm like, I just can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's also, I'm following you on this tangent, but I think that kind of helps. I think the type of people influence the kind of boundaries you have. Because I feel like for me, I'm surrounded by people like you who also have very good personal boundaries. So I can be easier.
Right.
Because I'm I know you're not going to just enter
you somewhere
into
that's... Yeah.
Because that's almost never going to happen.
Right. That's so true. Okay, so your freedom is dependent on my restraint somehow.
Yes, and it is. That's what humans are. Our freedom is dependent on other people's restraint.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. Because some people ask uncomfortable questions.
That is true. But that's the thing, is that then that's where redirection comes in, right?
Right.
So then you redirect and suddenly they realize they should have restraint. And it's a lesson for everybody involved.
Right.
Yeah, that's the essential point of society, I think, in a way. Our freedom is dependent on each other's restraint. That's life.
Bar one. Are you taking notes? You're taking notes. Our freedom is dependent on other people's restraint. Okay. So now that we're giving you a little snippet, this conversation is going to be good. So if you haven't already, get your tea or whatever. You're in for a ride. I'm going to start with the first question because I think this is pretty easy and...
We'll see whether it's easy when you land it.
Well, relatively easy to the rest of the questions.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to ask you is, what is the first word that comes to your mind when you think of the word boundary? We've already hinted at this, that boundaries, like the definition of boundary is very complex and it varies really depending on the field, depending on the context and things like that. But I just wanted to... I guess this is another question that alludes to the kind of personality you have. So,
yes.
What word comes up for you when you hear the discussions around boundary?
Space. For me, I think of boundaries very much in terms of space.
Okay.
In terms of my mind space, my emotional space, my physical space.
Right.
It's a very
right.
How am I taking care of my space?
Right.
That's what I think about when I think about boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. I was reading a little bit too about boundaries and I started thinking about the word borders. Like that's why like the idea of country borders there's this if I find it before this conversation is over, I'll read it out. But there was this really nice I don't know if it was a definition, but there was a nice way someone put it just about what you were talking about with space and an area, like a territory that you mark.
Yes.
And I think it's one of the questions anyway because it influenced one of the questions I will ask you in terms of a range versus a particular spot. Because when you say you think of boundary as a space, I think of boundaries as a border. So a border is contained within a space, right?
Yes.
And I know that's not the same for everyone. And I know for most people, I want to guess, because it would be very interesting for sure to meet someone for whom boundaries is like an exact border. Like they have to be very precise. I feel like it's a range. I don't know. You know, some people like increasing levels of discomfort with things.
Yeah. I think some people are more... This can be informed by trauma and past experiences, but for some people there's hard lines where immediately you get there, they're triggered. That's where the term trigger comes in, right? That for some people it is a hard line. Okay. Because of
experiences.
Yes, exactly.
And so that would be boundaries for specific things, right? Not just general boundaries, which I guess
it might be. It might be more general, depending on what life has done to that person.
Yeah. Because life be lifing sometimes.
That's true.
Okay. So, and in terms of expanding on the word space, can you talk a little bit more about what your space is? Like how you think of space when you think of space as boundaries or boundaries as space?
Yeah. So for me, it's I care a lot about my space.
Okay.
My mind space, my physical space. I care a lot about that.
Okay.
So caring about my space and my internal world kind of means that what comes into that, what goes out of that is something I kind of guard.
Right.
And there's this is an odd way to define it, but there's, the way cells, have
You know the way cells? You know the way cells.
Definitely know the way cells. You know the way cells have this, the cell membrane, and then there's all the space between that cell and other cells.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's what is outside the cell membrane, the cell can be aware of that. Before it goes exactly that buffer space is kind of what I think about as a boundary. So for me, it's definitely a range. It's definitely a range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there was something that occurred to me to ask you now when you were talking about that, but I forgot. But I'm gonna remember to ask you because when you were talking about caring about your that I remember now. When you were talking about caring for your physical space and your mental space, I remembered that in terms of our personality types, you're in a way quicker to let people into your physical space than I am, but I am quicker. No,
I was going to say, you do be letting people
into my. So that's the thing I was going to say. You are quicker to let people into your physical space than I am, and I'm quicker to let people into my mental space.
Emotional.
Not emotional, mental. Mental. Let's.
Sure.
I don't think I let people into my emotional space really easily, but mental for sure. Or I don't know. My emotional boundaries, I think, are definitely not as intense as yours, I guess. But physically, like, I don't...
Okay, so you're more willing to get into people's personal space, though?
Me?
Yes.
How? Explain.
Like, you physically go to
Sorry,
places...
this is quickly turning into reading me.
You will literally go to places that I'm like, you went where? And why? And can you send me your location in case of it? Like, that's the thing. Like, I would never do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so for the way I think, okay, so in terms of talking, let's reel it back into talking about boundaries. I don't know, the reason why I do that, I guess, or the reason why it's easier for me to do that physically is because I don't know, I feel like I have safeguards for my personal space, or for my physical space. Like, it's something I can see and I can handle. I have a better handle on. So me going into people's physical space, if they invite me, I think it's on them. Like, they're the ones hosting me. So I have my own, I have my own safeguards already moving into that space. Mm-hmm. And I usually, in those kinds of spaces, I'm not there for long. What she's referring to, just highlight Cliff Notes version, because I'm not like her. I'm not trying to tell y'all about my boundaries in my life. But what she means is, like, if someone needed, this is an arbitrary example, or might have happened, who knows. But if somebody needed help that I did not know, and I needed to help them in their space that I've never been to before, I would probably go into their space. Yeah. And she does not understand why I can do that. Yep. On the other hand, though, I would be way more reluctant to allow someone enter into my own space. Mm-hmm. I would rather help them in their own space. Yeah. I don't know why that is. I'm not a psychologist, but that's how I think about it, you know?
Yeah, no,
in terms of boundaries.
I kind of get it, but it's like, it's the opposite. So when you say that you're, like, I'm more open with my personal space, it's for different reasons. Like, for me, I control my personal space. I like that power. Right? And that's important to me. Yeah.
So, okay, okay, this is good because for me, I feel like after recent self-assessments, I'm not very good with emotional boundaries. Or maybe not very good is not a good way to put it, but I'm more... I have less emotional boundaries, I think, than I have physical boundaries. So, like... when I'm thinking of my own physical space, my lack of emotional boundaries can impede my ability to protect my physical space. So I just block it out, if that makes sense. Like the nerve to be like, all right, you can go. Do you know what I mean? Or please don't do this in my space. That's harder for me. So I just rather not have people in my physical space because I don't want to deal with the emotional, because whatever I'm talking about physically is more from an emotional way it affects me. I really hope I'm making sense, y'all. But like the way I think about it is, if someone comes into my house and they do something that makes me uncomfortable, it's no longer, I've given them access into my physical boundary, so that's done. Everything else they're crossing for me is like an emotional boundary. The only other physical boundary someone can cross, which it's very rare that can happen. You can't physically come up so close to my face because I will see it coming and I won't let you if I don't want you to be in my space like that. So, but every other thing, like if someone comes into my home, that's already my physical space. I feel like everything else there is emotional, and I'm not as strict with my emotional boundaries. So I'm more likely to allow things I don't necessarily like, especially for people I don't really know. I'm more likely to not be firm about stuff like that. So to safeguard.
Would it matter though?
It would matter to me emotionally.
Okay. Yeah. It would matter, but then you wouldn't be able to stop it.
I wouldn't be, Right. So to mitigate all of that, I'm like, no. How about we meet somewhere that's not my house?
Okay.
Or, do you know what I mean?
So it's a protection mechanism.
It's a protection mechanism because I just... I'm not as good with being very clear.
Right.
And the people I would be good with being very clear on probably won't even be in my personal space because I already know that they'll piss me off, and then I'm like, don't even come into my space.
So you weed out the...
Right. So that's how I think about it. So now that I've explained that, how do you think of it in reverse for your physical space?
Okay, so for me, I feel like I actually don't care as much. So in terms of like, there's a place I kind of go to in my head once I allow someone into my personal space.
Right.
Where I'm kind of like, I'm welcoming this person, my house, your house.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I can get, once I have decided to let this happen, that's where I am at that decision point. I see. And then also once that person is in my physical space, like I'm also I have no problem saying, oh, I would rather you don't do that. I have no problem with that either.
Right.
But then that also doesn't happen. I have not experienced it. So I feel like I don't have experiences with having to draw sharp lines.
Yeah.
And when I've had to draw lines, it hasn't been an issue for me at all. Yeah. You
so
can
like people
ask
who like
Dolapo
leave
about this. She's the person I've drawn lines with.
I don't know why she's name dropping people.
Yeah. So like, okay, so my friends or
so for when this person is gonna be on this podcast,
she knows.
This individual.
She'll totally tell you herself. It's like I'll be like, yo, I'm going to sleep. There cannot be any lights. I cannot. The lights are going to affect how I sleep.
So you see, I can't do that.
Okay, so see, I would.
Like if I invite someone to my house, the only one time I've done this is with the lights issue. She knows herself, but somebody spent the night at my house who cannot sleep without lights.
Okay, so see, but then I would have that conversation. So that's the thing is, my mom is like that, actually. My own mother cannot sleep without light. So it's a compromise that we kind of figure out when she is over with me. But in my friend's situation, she didn't know. It wasn't like she was trying to. It was just like a conversation. And that's the way I see it. I don't see it as, it doesn't often happen as like chastising someone for doing something or anything. It's more like, oh, this actually kind of affects me. And then they're like, oh, they didn't realize that. And
But for me, it's like, I don't like hurting people's feelings. And I know, so the thing is, and I think you know this about me, I rationally, I understand that it's not necessarily hurting their feelings. Like if I'm expressing, I know that rationally, but emotionally, I just don't like being the person who calls people out. I just don't like doing it. Like you have to really do something I think is very...
You have to reframe it though, because it's not calling them out at all.
It's just stating my preferences.
Yes.
But if I invite someone to my home, then I'm like, why am I then giving them all these rules?
It's not a rule. It's a preference that invites a conversation.
So y'all, I hope you can appreciate how, like, even in terms of thinking about boundaries, it's like I hear what she's saying.
Yeah. It's not. That's the thing. It's like it often is a start of a conversation. It's almost an opportunity for intimacy. It's a sense of now me and this person are having a conversation about, oh, you don't like lights? Oh, really?
That's a great thing that you brought up.
It becomes a discussion about like, oh, when I was growing, it becomes an entire conversation. It's like a way where this person now knows me better. I know them better. We are closer as a result. Like, it does improve the quality of your relationship.
Yeah, but for me, several emotional barriers have to have been crossed for me to get to that physical space that I can talk about, if that makes sense. For example, all these scenarios are only, like, if I'm going to live with someone long-term, that's only when these things will come up for me. If someone is spending like a couple weeks at my house, I don't see the need to inform them about why. Okay, so that's how I think about it.
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
For me, a couple days, I won't say nothing because it doesn't matter. A couple weeks, however, I'll
probably find somewhere else to sleep. That's the thing with me. Like, I'll create a situation where we just don't interact with each other's like boundaries or preferences.
This is not even really
right.
Yeah.
But if it's short term, the point I'm trying to make is if I rationalize it as short term, then it will just be like, it's not that long.
Yeah, no, I definitely think about it differently. Because for me, I think about a lot of things as an opportunity to know people better, as an opportunity to be a better friend, a better partner, whatever it is. And I care a lot about the quality of my relationships, my friendships. I like to know my people. I kind of like, one of my favorite things is to know and be known. I really enjoy that. So every time I get into this space where I either have to state a preference or discuss an idea or perspective, I see it as an opportunity to know somebody better. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it will also help me sleep better at night. That's a plus. That's a plus.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole point, right? Yeah.
This is me washing my dirty linen, but just to give context, everything you're saying is making sense, but as you know, I have a problem with that. It's like I want to know people, but
you don't want to be known. Sorry. See, yeah.
No.
Because that's the beginning point, right? That's the starting point for me.
Yeah. So it's like so the thing is for me is the idea is like I have no problem with the idea of knowing and being known. For example, like I'm a Christian, you are also a Christian, and for me, one of the big pinnacles of my faith and one of the best things for me about believing in Jesus is that he knows me fully. So that part for me is really special, and so it's something I definitely appreciate.
Right.
But there's a level of vulnerability that it requires to allow yourself to be known by somebody.
Absolutely.
And I don't I don't have that yet.
You don't really like that.
I don't,
Yeah, you're not a fan.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
You do not agree with the concept.
It rubs me the wrong way. It makes me so uneasy.
Yeah.
Apologize to all the potential victims of that if you're listening. Sorry. I'm trying.
So see, that's the difference in the starting point.
Exactly. So that's why for me, because emotionally, I'm very good at maneuvering my way around stuff and hiding more stuff. But physically, I cannot literally hide from someone. You're just there and I'm there. So I have to confront like those conversations you're talking about that can make you grow closer to your friend, your partner, or whatever. So I just avoid all of that altogether. Yeah, that's my thing with physically. Like, please don't come to my house. Because if it's a conversation, I can think about what to say. I can plan it. I can plan. I can mitigate everything. But when someone's in my physical space, I think for me, physical boundaries or my physical space is access to a lot of my emotional vault. While for some people, they don't need to be physically present to have access to. This is a other side topic. That's why for me, I don't know. I can't say never say never. I don't think long distance dating can, at least in the beginning, I don't think it can work for me. Because my vault.
I was going to say the success rate is not high on this side either. So
because my vault is.
I don't be knowing when I be working.
Why are you like this?
I was just like, I'm the wrong person to look at. My track record is 0 for 2.
I see my boundaries. I'm just feeling uncomfortable now because I'm like,
it is.
Whoever is listening that she has brought this up, I'm sorry.
You are the one that said
I didn't ask her to do this.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you're describing how it doesn't work, and I'm like, I do agree in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for me, the reason why, though, I don't know why it doesn't work for other people, is a lot of my emotional boundaries are located. If you can access my physical boundaries, you're very likely to access. Oh, sorry, I should stop saying boundaries. If you can access my physical space, you can more likely access my emotional space. Yeah. Because I have great control. Like, I like control. So I can control things that are like in my wheelhouse. And I don't think of my physical space as that whole, like, it's my wheelhouse. It's more of like everything's fair game now. Like, you can see me. That whole knowing, being known is like, I'm here. Right. I can't run. I can't hide. And like anyone who knows me knows I'm very expressive. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, you know,
which is why it's surprising that you do not like to be known. It doesn't add up in that.
That's why I have that physical thing, right? Because like I can't hide. So the best thing I can do for myself is hide physically.
Yeah, interesting.
Like, that's how I think about it. Like, if you can't see me, you have no case. Because you can be like, I suspect this is how you are. And I'm like, great suspicion. Right. But I'm like, I have things I do that are weird physically. Like, in terms of the way I react to things that are very obvious. And if someone was physically there when I was doing that, it would just be like, oh, this girl's very weird. And okay, I should give an example so it doesn't seem very vague. Like, I was asking my professor for something not too long ago. And again, that was a boundary of like, is he going to be offended if I ask him for this favor? And
I asked lots of people and they were like, I don't know why you're freaking out. This is something like you can ask your supervisor to help you with. And I'm like, okay. So I sent a message to my supervisor, and physically speaking, the moment I sent that message, I crawled under my bed, not under my blanket, under my actual bed. And that's something I would do physically. If someone was there with me, you would probably see me physically recoil, because I just can't hide how I feel about things. So because I know that about myself, I usually like to do things at a safe distance so that I can just be my weird self. And because this is not a therapy session, by the way, but it's just like, that's how I process stuff. And it's hard for me to just like, it's a trust thing, to trust that someone will see that about me and not think, what is wrong with you?
But what does it matter? Why does it matter?
I don't know. It just like, I don't know. Okay. It's just how it is. Okay. Anyway, I'm going off topic. So off topic. But no, like, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about boundaries is because it's one of those things that bothers me. Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, we talk about like everyone should have boundaries, but I'm like, do I really have boundaries or walls or like just obstacles? Do you know what I mean? Like, is this supposed to be safe? I don't know. Anyway, so I will move on. I think we've also talked about this, but I want to ask you if you have, this is already a yes, do you have boundaries with people, things, or all of the above?
This is a difficult question, actually. It's very hard because I do appear to be a person who has a lot of boundaries. That is the way I present. Yes, I know that. I'm aware of that. But the funny thing is, I actually don't think in those terms at all. Yeah.
And it's so true, because whenever people see both of us, they assume that you have more boundaries than I do.
Yes.
But it's easier to get to know you, actually, than it is to get to know me.
That's a factual statement, yes. That is very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speak on that, really.
Because this is the thing, is like, in many ways, I seem to have a lot of boundaries because, you know, anemia, low energy. I do not be having energy.
Hashtag, we are the team of low iron here.
Low iron.
We are constantly, it's like, if you have iron to donate to us, we are gladly accepting.
There should be a bank.
Like right now, bank. Literally as we speak to you, both of us are iron deficient.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, on the physical energy side, I don't think I have a lot of energy physically on one end. I also happen to be an introverted, very much overthinking in my head type person. So I also don't have very much mind space really for others. Like, I can occupy all by myself perfectly fine, sadly. So I think that's what it is. That's what people see. People see a person who is not like eager to go out or eager to spend time with people, and they just immediately think, oh, you have all this like boundaries. Yeah. But it's more like a protecting my energy thing. So like, I don't think in terms of boundaries. I think in terms of, do I have the energy to engage? Oftentimes the answer to that question is no, which is what seems like I have a lot of boundaries.
Right.
Meanwhile, it's literally just a lack of energy and space. Like I said. So my space can be limited.
Right.
More than most.
Yeah. I do tend to reach out to people more than you will, and I'm similar in terms of the way I think about energy. I just, anybody who knows me just knows if I mention how many times a day I talk about things in terms of energy, like I don't have the energy for that because physically I literally do not have the energy for a lot of things. But the thing is, and I think we did this in our personality testing. I care very deeply for people. I love people. And it doesn't mean you don't love people, but the way I love people allows me to cross boundaries in terms of like, if I feel...
You love more people is the difference. It's not that you love each person deeper. It's that you love more of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, I really care about people, and I don't like making people feel like sad or isolated. So if I feel in my head, this doesn't even have to be true. I don't know how. If for some reason I'm convinced that someone needs me to be a chatterbox, a chatterbox I will be. I will just keep talking, and I will go back home and I will be so tired. But I'm going to, like, I will talk. It won't even be a thing of I won't talk. And one thing I've been learning to do recently that has been so helpful is I know that this person needs to talk. and I know I have another friend who likes to talk, then I just introduce them. But before, when I was younger and I didn't have that insight yet, I would just be the person physically there, like talking about things I could care less about, really. But I just really want that person to feel that someone cares, because I do care. It's not that I don't care. It's just I literally don't have the energy sometimes to talk about some of the things they want to be talking about. But now I think I'm getting better at referring. So that's how, like, I guess in terms of, that's very interesting to me, though, that I think for you and I were case study-ish type situation where we present very differently what our boundaries may seem to be, but then they're very different when you actually try to cross those boundaries, which is another thing. I didn't pose this to you as a question because I feel like it'll be unfair. First, I don't think you have the qualifications to answer them, but like, and also I just think it's a big question. But in terms of asking how to like how people can see people like us and know that it's safe to cross. Because there are people who...
I was going to say it's not. Like, why do they want me crossing? Like, why are we saying it's safe? I didn't agree to that bit.
I'll speak for myself.
Okay, girl.
So, like...
Oh my gosh. That was fun, right? I thought that was fun. I thought that was a really fun chat. We just have banter like this all the time. And she always makes me nervous whenever we're speaking in public, because in private, yeah, I can go wild, but I mean, I gotta pretend like I'm a normal human being sometimes. But she definitely, it's just always a pleasure, and I'm so grateful for our conversation. Please stay tuned, because this chat is not over. We're going to be talking again on how we think people can come into our lives. This is, again, just from our perspective, of course, and I'm really hoping that it helps you process how you think about your boundaries and how you let people in or keep people out. I'm so excited for you to listen to the remaining parts of this conversation, because I definitely found it beneficial, and I think that you will too. But I will stop here for now, and until next time, I'm Kinah, and I hope you have a great day or a night, wherever the time is. And I'll see you or talk to you on another episode of Contemplations, the podcast. Ciao.